everyone. My name is Kendra. For those of you that don't know me, I'm our alumni lead here at ISKL. So for this series of talks, I work quite closely with Ms. Cook to reach out to our alumni, to get them to come back and do small sessions like this and speak with students about different topics related to transitioning to university. And I think this is our first in-person one this year.
Oh, wow.
So we've done quite a few this year, but they have all been over Zoom. But we're lucky enough to have E-Therng in town, so we asked him to come in and do one in person. So, welcome to today's session. It's your chance to connect with an ISKL alumni who's navigating their life beyond high school. Our speaker today is E-Therng. He's from the class of 2022. He is currently studying, and I need to read because it's way beyond what my brain can handle. He is currently studying mathematical finance, pure mathematics, and combinatorics.
Combinatorics.
That's a new word for me. So I'm excited to learn what it is. And optimization at the University of Waterloo in Canada. He spent most of his life in Malaysia and attended ISKL from grade 5 to grade 12. He brings a grounded yet global perspective to university life. He'll be sharing his experience transitioning from ISKL to one of Canada's top universities and what it's like studying in a highly technical and math-heavy field. So we're so excited to hear his insights about academics, student life, and staying balanced. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Okay, so I guess I'll start my presentation. So as I said, I'm studying mathematics at the University of Waterloo. Back in ISKL, I did the IB diploma and I took HL Math AA, Econ and Computer Science and Chinese and SL Chinese Ab Initio, Econ and Physics. And I was also part of YAS, the Math Club, Rock Climbing Club, and also the Computer Science Club. Okay, that's going to be a bit annoying. So after I went into the University of Waterloo, I initially went there for the mathematical finance program. But over the course of my degree, I realized that I really like pure math and combinatorics and optimization. So I added that to my degree as well. As for clubs, I've joined the pure math, applied math, and combinatorics and optimization club, the Malaysian club, and also the Mathematical Society, which is basically the student society for the math faculty. So firstly, I'll talk about my course. My course is a 5-year program because I'm doing the co-op program, which means I do internships and studying. In total, it's about 8 semesters of studying, and each semester is about 4 months long. And then the rest is just internships. For the subjects, I'm doing a lot of, like I said, courses in pure math, combinatorics, optimization, statistics, actuarial science, econ, etc. And for my course structure, the way it works is that it's like mostly lectures, about 3 hours a week per course, and with some additional tutorials on the side for maybe like first or second year courses, which is basically where maybe like a TA would go into more things, more like course material for you to make you understand to understand the course more. And for assessments, there's usually a final exam worth about 50% of your grade and a bunch of assignments and maybe a midterm as well. So this was my first year course schedule. It might be a bit confusing. I was as well when I saw this because there's a lot of like course codes, for example, AFM 101, CS 135, Math 147. And I mean, you slowly get used to the course codes. For example, you slowly learn and memorize that AFM 101 is like Introduction to Financial Accounting. Like CS 135 is like designing functional programs. And you slowly get used to it. But in the beginning, it's kind of hard to get used to the naming system. And as you can see, there is like quite a lot of, there is like quite a lot of free time between my courses. So and there's just quite a lot of free time in general because I know in ISKL it's from like 8 to 3 nonstop, maybe like get a flex period like every now and then. But in university, life is a lot more free and like flexible. You're a lot more independent, and there's no one really like managing what you do with your time outside of class. And honestly, okay, you technically can just not go to class, but I wouldn't personally recommend it. I know some people do it because they feel like they study at home better, but there's also some courses where they grade you on participation, so a lot of people go to classes for that. Personally, I learn better from classes. I know some people don't, but yeah. Personally, I'd say go to your classes, even though maybe you don't have to. But then again, I know for some of my friends' universities, attendance is mandatory, and you can get like suspended or expelled if you don't go to your classes. Okay, so how the IB has and hasn't helped. Basically, I feel like the IB has helped me because it really gives you like a breadth of knowledge. For example, like I said, I took economics, computer science, physics, math, etc. And I feel like learning about all these different subjects has really helped me like pinpoint what I really wanted to do. For example, I remember choosing the math program because I remember after the IB exam, I did well in the exam, and there was this one question where I just realized that I really liked math after doing that question. And after that, I was like, okay, I'm going to the University of Waterloo to do math. And so that has definitely helped me. It helps me like develop good study strategies, etc. But what it hasn't really helped me in is, okay, so I know the IB requires you to do a lot of essay writing with TOK, extended essays, IAs. Personally, I have not really needed those skills because I'm going into a math program. My courses don't really care about how good my English is or how good I write my proofs, as long as it's basically coherence. So it hasn't really helped there, but whenever I do English courses or econ courses and I have to like write like an essay or so, it has definitely helped me like quite a lot. Just not in the majority of courses which I take, which is math. So what's it like in university? So there's definitely a culture shock, especially because I have not been to Canada a single time before I went to Waterloo. And I'd say that it's definitely very different there. One of the biggest culture shocks was tipping. I hate tipping culture, especially because, I don't know, like as a student, I feel like you don't make much money anyways, or you don't have much money, so tipping kind of like makes the food a lot more expensive. Also, Waterloo is quite a small town as compared to KL. For example, here there are like skyscrapers anywhere. There's barely any skyscrapers except for maybe like a few like mid-sized apartment buildings. The mall is like nothing compared to maybe KLCC or Pavilion. So that was definitely a big culture shock. Also, for university, I felt really homesick, especially during like my first while there, because I did not have any family nor friends in Canada. Well, okay, I had one friend going to Toronto, but that was like 2 hours away by bus. So I was really homesick and I didn't know anyone there. And for accommodation, I lived on residence the first year. And afterwards, I switched to off-campus housing, which personally I prefer a lot more than university housing. Because when I lived off campus, I lived with my friends. So that was fun. And also, I guess I had more freedom on what to do with food, because when I lived on campus, we basically had a meal plan where we had like a set amount of money in like the plan. And if you didn't use it all, you would have to then like some of the money would get like removed because in Waterloo there's this really complicated thing where, let's say you put like $1,000. However, the university takes $500, like half of that, as overdraft fee, but gives you a 50% discount on your food. So they don't really take any, so like you don't really get anything from it except the fact that your food is tax exempt. So basically you're forced to eat on campus every day, and it started to get really stale after like 4 months. Whereas when I lived off campus, I could like eat out, I could whatever food I wanted. So that was definitely a perk. Another thing is the bathroom. I lived in a place where we had communal bathrooms. I would never want to experience that again because of how disgusting some of the people were. And yeah, I hated that. But when I lived off campus, it was like 4 or 5 people to share like 2 bathrooms. So I definitely prefer that a lot more. For societies, so how Waterloo structures their clubs is a bit different. So every faculty, for example, there's like the math faculty, engineering faculty, etc. Each faculty has their own club for each major. For example, like I said, I'm part of the pure math, applied math, and combinatorics and optimization club. So there they just smush like 3 majors into a club. There's also like the statistics club, the computer science club, the actuarial science club, etc. So those are 4 basically where to meet people of like similar majors as you, to get help from them, to do like fun events with them, and so on and so forth. For example, like the pure math club invites professors to come speak on certain topics within their respective fields. And then there's the overarching student society governing all those clubs, which is the math society. And what I basically did, so I worked in the math society as the vice president academic for a term. And what I basically did was I advocated for students. So you actually have like, okay, you don't have that much power, but you still have like quite a substantial amount. For example, there was this proctoring software that was being introduced where a lot of students complained that it like violated their privacy. So what I could do is I could speak out against that and say, hey, you know, a lot of students are not happy with this. And then we kind of like got it suspended for a bit. Also, you get to go on a lot of committees. For example, I was on like some faculty committees where a bunch of department heads were discussing course changes and like new courses, and you could provide your input on that by like canvassing students from those majors. And I also ran events. I ran review sessions. I ran resume critiques, and then like Professor Teach-Off has like a mini fun event. So yeah, in university, okay, so especially where I'm from, or like the major I'm in, all of the classes are pretty dispersed. For example, like not everyone will be in the exact same class as you. So you mostly get, so there's 2 options. There's one, which is what I did, was I chose to do, I guess, the harder version of some classes, which really helped me make friends because we struggled on assignment problems like every week, all day. And that's how I got my friends. But a lot of other people, I knew they got their friends from just going to clubs and just like mingling around. So that's definitely something you could do as well. So yeah, like I said, the IB impacts. Time management and knowing how to write an essay is really good, especially if you have to write an essay, which I didn't most of the time, but when I did, it really helped. The disadvantages is the new types of assessments and study methods. For example, like I said, I studied mathematics, and it's not this, like the math I did in university is not the same as I did in IB math. And I was like, it prepared me well, but I would not say I was at the level I kind of wanted to be. So for university in general, adulting 101, budgeting is a really big part, especially if you live off campus and alone. I didn't really budget in first year because, like I said, I lived on campus. I never really went out shopping and stuff. You have to do laundry, cooking, grocery shopping, and cleaning all by yourself, which, okay, like I said, you have a lot more free time, but especially if you're living alone, all this drains so much time, especially cooking for me because I am so bad at cooking. It takes, I remember taking like an hour or 2 that made a dish that took my friend like half an hour to cook because I was just really bad. So yeah, that drains a lot of time. House hunting, I got really lucky with house hunting because, like I said, I lived off campus. But housing in Waterloo is really competitive to get because a lot of people want to live off campus, and there's basically just a lot of people in Waterloo in general. But I was really lucky in the sense that my friends in first year found a house, but they needed one extra person, so they reached out to me and was like, hey, do you want to live with us? So I got really lucky with that respect. I know some people struggled a lot with getting housing. So yeah, better start looking early because I know some people look for housing. Okay, so so basically I entered university in 2022 September. Okay, and then housing is only guaranteed for first year students, and then usually students come back to school like 2023 September. And then people were looking for 2023 housing in like October or November of 2022. And I did not even know to do that. So thank God that I have friends. This is why it's really important to make friends in first year. You never know what might happen. Job applications are also a thing, especially because I'm in Waterloo. There's a co-op program, which means I'm required to do internships. So it's basically like an additional course with the amount of time you spend applying for internships every day. And then also balancing social life and academics because, like I said, you're a lot more free. You're a lot more independent. No one's really like there to tell you to study or to rest. So you have to manage everything by yourself. And there's actually been like quite a few students who have like failed out of university in their first term. So that is definitely one thing to look out for. And yeah, that's basically it. Oh, yes.
What was your first year residence?
V1. Okay, also, no. Okay, V1 was like my last choice because there was like apartment style residences, like MKV, UWP, which is basically like a regular apartment. Everyone has their own bedrooms, there's a communal living room, and like there's a bathroom, but you only share that with like your roommates. So only like one or two, like maybe 2 or 3 people. Okay, I really wanted that so bad, but I got V1. I hated it because it was like 20 people that share one bathroom. It was not a good time.
Was Rev not your last choice?
Okay, no, Rev was my last choice. Because I was lucky in the sense that I got a single room, but there's this residence called Rev where everyone lives in a double room. I did not really want a roommate, so yeah. Oh yeah, okay, so basically in V1, there's 4 quadrants, north, south, east, west. Each one has like 8 buildings. And there's a central complex where basically that's like where the canteen is, the laundry room is, etc. So all the other buildings except South 7 and South 8 are connected to the central complex through bridges. And guess which one I was assigned in? South 7, which is arguably the worst building because at least for South 8, that was near another residence. So you could do your laundry, so it was like quite easy to do your laundry there. But for me, I had to like go all the way around South 8. Okay, wait, is there a marker I can draw it out? Okay, basically, if the central complex is here, okay, and let's say let's say there's like 4 quadrants. They're like, okay, they're not individual buildings. They're like little buildings here, but they're all connected to some way in like, and then they're all connected to the central complex by a bridge. Okay, and then this is, let's say like another residence, and then this is South 7. Okay, this is South 8, and this is South 7. Okay, so ours was the only one not connected to the central complex by a bridge, but this one was really close to this residence, so they could do their laundry there really easily. But for us, we had to go, because this was a parking lot, we had to go either all the way around here to do our laundry here, or go all the way here to do our laundry in a central complex, which I hated because especially if you have to do your laundry, but it's raining or it's snowing, you have to go outside, and it's just not a pleasant experience.
Talk more about the difference in the weather between KL and Waterloo.
I'd say in Okay, so one thing I was not used to is snow because, like I said, I've lived in Malaysia since 5th grade. Personally, I do not like the cold. I know a lot of people might like the cold because you can just put on more layers. The snow is really pretty. I like the snow, but the issue is the day after it snows, it gets all like sludgy and it's disgusting to walk in. It's just because like with newly fallen snow, it's like really pressed compact. It's really pleasant to walk on. Like it makes like a crisp noise whenever you step on it. But the day after, when it's sludge and it's all gray and slimy and disgusting, that is not a thing I like to walk on. But besides that, I'd say the weather's pretty good. It rains occasionally, I'd say. I do like the change in seasons because there's always like a change in scenery as opposed to Malaysia where it looks basically the same every time. So that's a perk at least. Yes?
Yes, you know how like the University of Waterloo has a lot of different math competitions?
Yeah.
Like which ones actually matter? And like which will it help us get into the University of Waterloo or not?
Okay, so the one I know which actually matters is the Euclid competition, which is the one you do in 11th and 12th grade. And I think maybe you can do it in 10th grade as well, I'm not sure. But basically, if you do that and you submit your score, then your chances of getting in are higher. And also, if you get like 80 and above on the Euclid, you can do the advanced math courses and the advanced CS courses. I did the advanced math and CS course. I didn't get an 80 or above on the Euclid, but I just got an override into them instead because a lot of people drop out after like the first week and there was a slot open. So I was like, let me go in and try it. So, yes, I have a question?
What you're saying is doing what you're interested in, like joining the competition on 11 and 12 will help you get into the major that you want.
Yes, especially for Waterloo because the Euclid is a Waterloo like specific competition. But I mean, if you're interested in like maybe CS, there's the MCO, like the Malaysian Computing Competition, which I participated in, and yeah, and that will help your chances in getting to like CS, especially if you do really well in the computing competition. You go to the US competition, and then yeah, they'll help your chances. Yeah, question?
Is there like a band society or equivalent thing?
A what?
Band?
Band? Yes, there is band. There is like the jazz band. There's also like an anime band if you're really into anime music.
Again, you
Yes?
mentioned about the competition, about the math or computer science. Is there a further that you can share it with the school about this?
Is there one?
Yeah, you said about the computer science, the CS.
Yeah.
CS is computer science, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the competition.
Mhm.
You said about that.
Okay, so basically, I think there's also a CS competition for Waterloo. I never did it, but I know there is one. I don't know if this school offers it because like how I did like the Malaysian computing competition was through the computer science club. I don't think they did the same for the Waterloo competition. So yeah, but honestly, if you do the Malaysian computing competition and you go on to like the USA computing competition and you do well there, I think your chances of getting into like a CS program is pretty good because one of my friends, he got into like UC Berkeley for computer science because he did really well on like the USA computing competition along with like a bunch of other extracurriculars. Honestly, the best thing I'd say is the courses because I personally really love my major and my program, especially pure math. So, and combinatorics and optimization, I guess. I haven't really done much math finance courses in terms of like the actuarial science and statistics courses. I'll do that later on in my degree. But personally, I really love pure math. I really love like combinatorics and optimization. So going to those classes has honestly been like one of the best things about my degree. Okay, one thing I really regretted in high school was, okay, in 9th and 10th grade, I wasn't really thinking about university. Honestly, university wasn't even on my mind. I was like, oh, it's too far away. So I didn't really put much effort into my courses. My GPA was kind of low in first year, but I pulled it up like over time. Like you can see an improvement in my grades from 9th to 12th grade. I did really well in 12th grade, but 9th grade was it was not my year. So definitely put more effort into your courses in 9th grade and 10th grade. And also try not to push yourself too hard because, like I said, I did the advanced courses in Waterloo. I don't regret it in the sense that, that's basically where I got all my friends. That's how I gained my love for pure math. But I also didn't really do well in those courses in first year because things never really started to click in those courses until the summer between first year and second year when I was self-studying with the material to kind of gain a better understanding. That's where things started to click and my grades started to improve. But in first year, that did not really happen. So my grades took a bit of a tumble down then. Honestly, I haven't really been that invested in the co-op program because after I really liked pure math, I was like, okay, I just want to go into grad school and pursue this further. But speaking from my friends' experience and just in general, for first year students, it's really hard. Can I use this laptop to pull up some statistics?
Sure.
I'd say the first co-op is usually hard to get. Yeah, okay, this is usually the progression. But let me see.
Understand that?
Okay, so basically what the co-op program is you don't really get a break, like a summer break. It's always either studying or internship. So whereas normal universities, you study for 2 terms, you get summer off. For us, it's how it is the first 2 terms you study and then you do an internship and then you study and then you do an internship. But it's also really flexible in the way you plan your internship. So for example, you can swap study terms and internship terms and so on and so forth. Yeah, as you can see, the co-ops, the employment statistics are not that good, especially since the winter term has ended and we're technically almost in the spring term. I think we'll start the spring term officially next week. And not many people has gotten an internship in the first term. Honestly, I didn't either, but they have this program called We Accelerate, where it's you can sign up for it. They teach you some skills. So I got into the web dev thing. I learned some web development. They throw you to a company and then you do some tasks for them, and then you can put it on your resume. I got a stipend of $1,000, which isn't much compared to what you actually get paid. But now I think because of the amount of people that are doing it and to cut costs, they've stopped giving the stipend. So yeah, and for non-first work terms, it's 70%, which is significantly better. But if you look at the employment statistics, Waterloo is also really good for internships or this program because they have their own job board where you only have to compete with students in the university as opposed to just students from every part of Canada. But as you can see, employment rates right now are quite low. They're still higher than spring before, marginally. But I mean, you have until I think even though the work term officially starts in May, you have until mid-June-ish to actually secure an internship. So yeah.
And those are required as part of your degree, right?
Because the thing is, if you get into a co-op program, you also get a work permit to go along with it. And I know when I applied to a lot of jobs, a lot of on the application page, a lot of jobs say, "Are you in a co-op program?" And you have to say yes or no. So I do think that if you really want to lock into internships and stuff, a co-op program is better. I also know that for Waterloo specifically, if you know some sort of coding skills, or if you're in CS or SE, it should be easier to get co-op jobs because a lot of jobs there are coding jobs. Personally, I don't know much coding. I'm looking for more of the finance-y jobs. There's not as many. There's also a lot of jobs like administrative jobs around the university. For example, it can help like the dean's office, or you can tutor students, etc. But your grades need to be good for like the courses that you're tutoring. So, which is maybe one reason why you should try to do well in first year. Because like a lot of the tutoring courses are like first year. For example, they have like instructional teaching assistants, which is like a teaching assistant for first year CS students, where you just like grade courses, you hold office hours, you help students with their work. So, but to get that, you have to be, you have to get like a really high grade in those initial courses.
Give them a little round of applause.
Thank you.